Good morning everybody and welcome back to the Star Wars Battlefront 2 beta. By the time you see this video, the game will have, well, the beta will have ended. I'm recording this on Wednesday and it will be going up tomorrow. The beta will have ended, unfortunately. But, nevertheless, I still feel this is something that needs to be said. Although we'll get to that later. For now though, this is mostly gameplay footage of the strike mode. I spent most of my time playing a Galactic Assault just because I like playing as the droids, and I liked that game mode. I'm still using my CR2. I quickly switch over to the standard First Order blaster though. I haven't seen any of the new Star Wars films, so I can't really comment on any of the weapons that I use in this footage, to be honest, because I haven't seen the new films yet. Although I'm going to make a mental note to get around to watching them at some point in the future. Although this does feature footage of the strike gameplay, which basically involves a capture the flag style mode between the defenders and the attackers trying to get information, which is basically just a box, from one end of the map to the other. You only have to do this once to win, but that doesn't make it any easier. As you can imagine, it seems to be much harder for the defenders, much harder for the attackers than it is for the defenders. Although when a defender runs out in front of you like that, it's not too difficult to kill them. The First Order, I almost called them the Empire then for a minute. The First Order Stormtroopers are at a distinct disadvantage, mainly because it requires team play, and if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. The only issue with online multiplayer gaming is that there are other people playing it, and team play is not a specifically high skill area as far as video games are concerned, unfortunately. Or at least not as far as Battlefield, Battlefront games, Call of Duty, etc. and all of that go. With War Thunder, you tend to notice it a little bit more, but not so much with first-person shooters, unfortunately. The only time I've experienced proper team play in first-person shooters is with the Red Orchestra games. Only because it's kind of like being thrown into a pool at the deep end when you don't know how to swim. You're kind of forced to learn how to play as a team, otherwise you're doomed to failure. Unfortunately, although we may be able to accept this, most people who play these kind of games don't. I managed to earn a hell of a lot of points through this footage just because I'm the one who constantly picks up the crate and tries to get it to the point. Although, now we're going to get on to the main point of this video. The First Order Flametrooper. Looks awesome, doesn't it? As good as it may look though, it's not very effective at all. I will be putting up a video maybe Friday, depending on how things go. I might space it out a little bit more and upload it at a later date, but I got some footage of the Jump Trooper as well. The Jump Trooper for the First Order is a hell of a lot better, or at least it sort of twigged with me a lot easier than the Flametrooper ever did. The Flametrooper lacks the range to kill enemies with impunity. Now, you may argue that that would make it overpowered. I disagree. I'm not saying that it should be able to kill you from across the map. I'm just saying that being able to actually kill somebody from more than 5 feet away would be a reasonable level of fairness. Because if you're at the other end of the map and you've got a sniper rifle, you can still kill them pretty easily with headshots. 3 or 4 headshots and they'll be dead. So it's never going to be overpowered in that regard. I mean, it's still a flamethrower after all. The best way I managed to do any form of damage to the enemy team whilst playing as a Flametrooper was by using his grenades, which explode and cause flame damage to an area where they explode in, and anybody who walks into it who is not on your team gets dealt damage to. The flamethrower itself, whilst it will do damage to enemy players, as you can imagine, that's what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't do it consistently. you have to continuously have the flame on them to kill them. It acts very much like normal bullets in this regard. You can't fire a burst with the flamethrower at one individual and have it cause damage to them over time, as the flame grenade does when they walk through the fire. It catches them on fire, they burn for a short period of time, and if they stay in it, they die faster. It's quite straightforward. But as you can see, I have to be very, very, very close before I start doing any damage to this guy, and if there had been more than one person there in that scenario, I would have died. Quite fast, in fact. This is not a trooper where, unless there are 3 people in a crowded space, you're not guaranteed to kill any of them. If there's one person stood right in front of you and one person stood 10 meters behind him, the guy stood behind him will kill you. And you see there, that was the extreme limit of this thing's range. It doesn't fire very far at all. And all people have to do is stay at arm's length from you, and you can't hurt them. You just can't hurt them. And because, as I said a minute ago about team play, you can't guarantee that your team will support you by shooting the people who are furthest away from you that you can't hit them with your flamethrower. Which begs the question, why would you spend 3,000 spawn points playing a class that is next to useless? The Flametrooper just doesn't work as well as any of the other classes you could choose, particularly the Assault or the Jump Pack Trooper. They don't work as well. In my opinion, the only way to solve this would be by giving the Flamethrower more range, maybe 20 meters maximum. At least that way you could sit behind cover, spray the flame toward an objective or toward a group of enemy players, and have the weapon deal burning damage as well. Don't just have it deal damage when the flame is actually hitting them, otherwise it kind of defeats the point of it being flame damage. You might as well just be firing an assault rifle or blaster rifle or a machine gun at them, because that's what it feels like. Of course, feel free to give me your opinion on this down in the comment section. I really am more than happy to hear your argument on this matter. But as far as I'm concerned, it needs a buff. I'm not saying that it needs to be buffed to the point where it can hit you from halfway across the map, because that would be absolutely ridiculous. As I said, it is a flamethrower after all. It's not supposed to kill you from 50 meters away. But flamethrowers in real life, as it currently stands, ones that were used in the First World War, Second World War, they were designed for taking out bunkers and for digging enemies out of entrenched positions. Particularly bunkers, foxholes. In the case of the Vietnam War, they would have been used for digging Viet Cong and NVA soldiers out of rat tunnels or spider tunnels. But that sort of thing doesn't exist in the Star Wars universe, and so as a result, the Flametrooper is more of a... what word could I use to describe it? Almost a meme, I suppose. It's more of a joke. It's not an effective class, it's just, oh, I've got 10,000 battle points, I'll just spawn one of these in for shits and giggles. Because that's basically what you're doing. If nothing else, you're throwing away spawn points. It would be far more effective just to spawning a jump trooper or hell, even a sniper class, which I've actually taken a liking to over the past few days. Especially the First Order one, because I'm not going to lie, that right there, that is an MG34 with a scope on it. It's one thing I like about the Star Wars universe in general, is that they just take Second World War weapons and modify them to such an extent that they expect you not to notice. Although, I'm a bit of a history buff myself, so it's kind of difficult for me not to notice. In fact, while we're on the subject of weapons based on World War II weapons, the F-11D, the First Order Stormtrooper Blaster, and the E-11, the Empire Stormtrooper Blaster, are both variants of, well, they're not variants of, they're modified versions of the Star Wars universe of the Sterling submachine gun, which was introduced just after World War II for the British. But I digress. I will continue to keep playing the Flametrooper when I get the opportunity to do so. I think in certain situations it will be useful. It's incredibly situational, and I would expect nothing less of it to only work in smaller, tighter, compact environments. But that also means that enemies can quite easily throw grenades in your direction, shoot at you easier, because at the end of the day it's close quarters. And see, this guy, I actually had to jump behind him and surprise him to kill him, and even then I almost died because my flamethrower overheated before he died, because it wasn't doing burning damage. Once I'd stopped hitting him, he stopped taking damage. Assuming that DICE and the game developers decided that it probably wasn't a good idea to give this thing more range, they could at the very least give it the ability to do damage periodically rather than just when you're hitting them. Perhaps there could be a damage multiplier. The longer that you hold the flame on them for, the more damage that it does over time. Just an idea.
The package has been acquired by our troops.
So what do I think of the strike game mode? I rather like it. It's, like I said, it's very, very similar to Call of Duty's Capture the Flag. Of course, you get the neat little cutscenes at the beginning, and you know, that adds a little bit of a better feeling to it than it just being Capture the Flag. But in essence, apart from the fact you only have to take the item to the objective once, it is effectively just a Capture the Flag mode. It's infantry only, with the exception of the special classes like the Jump Troopers and the Flametrooper in case of the First Order. See, look at the range. He's not that far away from me, and I only just hit him before I died. It's insane. The Wookiee Warrior class that you can use as the rebels is far more effective. Far, far more effective. The crossbow that the Wookiees get, especially when you use its ability to effectively rapid fire whilst charging the weapon, you can take out groups of players that are on, I'd say, less than half health with one shot. If you fire it so that the bolts disperse horizontally rather than in a group, then you can take out a group of players that are on less than half health from a pretty good range. As a matter of fact, at close range the weapon is almost slightly less deadly than it would be at long range, just because of the spread. Especially if there's a bunch of people grouped up, say, trying to protect the package that you're supposed to deliver, like in this game mode. It makes it even easier to pull this off.
The package is in our hands. Let's go. Package dropped.
See what I mean? Yeah, that was definitely a charged shot. If I had to guess, I'd say he probably hit me in the head or in the upper torso, which is a one-shot kill. It's insane. Of course, the disadvantage to this is that they actually have to charge their weapon in order to do that to you. Kind of like the... was it the pulse rifle in the first Battlefront that EA made? That was in the... No, it wasn't. The cycler rifle was in the beta, and the pulse rifle was like an energy version of it, which, because there weren't classes, it was basically your sniper rifle, but it was used as a star card, which I thought was BS, but hey, there you go.
We are running out of opportunities. Finish the job. Self-field active.
Yeah, I got overrun. I didn't stand much of a chance there. I've also just got the A2AE CFE, and
Whatever you need.
the... what's the name of it? The light machine gun. The unlockable light machine gun for the beta. Guess what I got them? I'll give you a minute to think about it. That's right, in a crate. I didn't earn them. I got lucky. The dice rolled in my favour. I opened one crate and got the A280, opened another crate and I got the heavy blaster. It's insane. Utterly insane. I do quite like this sniper's ability, by the way. Ugh, English. I do quite like this sniper's ability as well, by the way. I didn't realise this because I hadn't managed to get a kill with the ability until recently, but it actually recharges. If you kill somebody with that burst fire submachine gun that you pull out when you activate the ability, the timer recharges. So in theory you could stay in that ability for as long as you like. You could stay in it indefinitely until you either can't get a kill anymore or decide to stop using it by pressing the R1 and R1 button again. But it helps make the sniper much more versatile. In close range combat fights, in buildings or in any other situation where you're more, say, less than 10 meters away, aim for the head and just spam the trigger, and they die in 2 bursts. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, this will be yet another of my Battlefront 2 beta videos. There will be more coming up. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more, please subscribe and like. If you don't, dislike, that's fine as well. Cheers.